The first words today are, science has been accused with undermining morality, but the charge is unjust. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectively on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would indeed be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hope of reward after death. That was Albert Einstein. So, great to see everyone this morning. Glad that you decided to get out of bed and join us here. We're going to start this morning with our wonderful accompanist over here, Mr. Bill, and we're going to sing page number 33. This little light of mine. Will you stand if you're willing and able?
It's page 33. We've got 4 verses, and we're going to do all 4.
And I'm going to hear you sing now.
I'm going to give this one energy.
Yeah, this is an energy song, so
This is what I'm going to do it. I got a trademark introduction to it, so here we go.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I've got the light of love, I'm gonna let it shine. I've got the light of love, I'm gonna let it shine. I've got the light of love, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I've got the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine. I've got the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine. I've got the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Wherever I may go, I'm gonna let it shine. Wherever I may go,
fine. Welcome to the first existentialist congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community philosophically based on feminist and existentialist principles. We're dedicated to human liberation and protection of the natural world. We make our spiritual home here in the Old Stone Church, this wonderfully beautiful building hand-built by the African American Antioch East Baptist Church back in the early 1900s. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African Americans from this area. We honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all Indigenous people. Oh, it's great to see everyone this morning. Once again, I'm glad that you decided to join us. It's a beautiful day. Welcome to spring. And I hope that y'all, I mentioned last Sunday that I hope that you would do something good for yourself, that you would get out and enjoy the beautiful weather and look at nature and look at whatever brings you joy. I hope that you were able to do some of that during the week this week, and I hope that you will continue to do that each week from now on, because it is, Atlanta is one of the most, well, I have to say, I hadn't lived in a lot of cities, but I think that Atlanta is an incredibly beautiful city. So just walk around and see how beautiful it is, or get in your car and drive around and just take in the absolute beauty of nature. I'm going to be playing in the dirt again this afternoon and totally enjoying nature. In a few minutes I'll be doing community announcements, so if anyone has a community announcement, if you please write it down. Do we have any newcomers that would like to stand and introduce yourself? I don't see anyone this morning, other than our speaker, and he'll introduce himself later on. How about birthdays and anniversaries? Surely we've got a birthday. Oh, yes. So, everybody, let's sing a happy birthday to Joe.
Happy birthday to you. Here we go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joe. Happy birthday to you.
You have another birthday. What's your birthday?
I'm 76 on Tuesday. That's rolling towards 80.
I was 77 Thursday. Happy birthday, Wayne.
James Key. We were just in fat. Now we're
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ray.
celebrate those times in our lives, like birthdays and anniversaries. I'm really grateful that that this has been a part of our tradition for so many years. I think it's time for another congregational song, Bill. So let's see, Bill gave me this really nicely printed page so that I can read it at my age. We're going to go to page number 10. The tune is Amazing Grace, but we're going to sing the words at the bottom. We can become.
We can become.
Page number 10.
One of our favorite songs. Hers and mine, anyway. Okay.
Words at the bottom.
Yep.
I'm going to read a couple of community announcements. Do we have any other community announcements? Okay. Next week, which is March the 30th, it is the 5th Sunday Eat Out. We're going to the Flying Biscuit. Come with the membership guild for brunch. I assume that's after the service. After the service on next Sunday. Flying Biscuit, be there, be square. Andy, would you like to tell us about the sound system?
You may have noticed people wearing headsets like you see in the museums. That's our new assisted living listening system. And you're welcome to try it out, and you can ask questions about it. So basically, you just put it over your ear, and The little belt pack has a volume, turn on and volume, and it's connected to our PA system. We have 4 of them, so if we run out on a given Sunday, it's also possible to use your smartphone, but that's a little bit more, have to get it set up. You download an app basically, and we'll figure out a way to get wired earbuds to plug into your smartphone. So see me for any questions about that. But it seems to be working pretty well for folks, so give it a try and let me know.
Thank you, Andy. Andy has put a lot of work into this, so please show Andy your appreciation for what he's done. Yeah, this is what we're about, that different people take on particular tasks in the congregation, and that is how we do it, because we don't have a lot of paid staff to do things, and so it falls on us to do those things that need to be done. And fortunately, we have so many people that are willing to step up and to do the things that need to be done. Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate, you're doing this, especially somebody who can't hear. Now we're going to have a time of silence. This is an opportunity for you to sit quietly with your friends and neighbors and to pray, to meditate, to go inside. And we have candles on both sides of the sanctuary if you would like to light candles. We'll do this for about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm going to be trying to bring us back together. We're very fortunate this morning to have a speaker today that's going to talk about Maya stories from Turtle Island. And this is our speaker today is Emil Keme. He's an Indigenous K'iche Maya scholar. I won't even try to pronounce the name of where you're from. Professor of English and Indigenous Studies at Emory University. He is a first-generation college graduate and professor. His teaching and research focus on contemporary Indigenous literatures and social movements, Central American literature and cultures, and post-colonial and subaltern studies too. So, it is with my great pleasure that I give to you Emil Keme.
Sakiliki Wanohen, the Are Emil Keme in K'iche Maya. Papashin kaya in the Lashina, we na Pamazun, Shukuhe in action, Hukno, in Kowa, which was a Chiek, Kastamachim, the Binan, Kamawa, Pamazun, Chichri, Ukush Ka, Ukush Pule, Kinkikotik, Kinko Iwuk. I'm done, thank you. Yeah. So what you just heard is the K'iche Maya language, which is my mother tongue. And what I basically said is, greetings everyone. My name is Emil Keme. I am an Indigenous K'iche Maya person, originally from Iximulew, or the land of corn, which is what we called what is now Guatemala. And I said that my umbilical cord is buried in a place called Momostenango and Quetzaltenango in Guatemala, and that I'm grateful to the Heart of the Sky and the Heart of Earth for allowing us the opportunity to come together to have this conversation. And I would like to thank Wade, especially because when he and I met, he invited me to come here and share a little bit about my work. And so I really appreciate the kind invitation. And and for you to learn a little bit about Maya people's stories from Turtle Island. So the title of the talk, Maya Voices or Maya Stories from Turtle Island. Turtle Island is the original indigenous name of what is now North America, what is now the United States, Canada, and northern Mexico. And it is a term that is used by many indigenous peoples, especially in this place in North America. What I wanted to share with you today was the stories of Maya peoples who live here in Turtle Island or in the United States. Given the fact that we are experiencing a lot of, all of these attacks on immigration, on immigrants, people being deported, sometimes in many violent ways, I thought it would be appropriate to share a story of some of those experiences from a Maya perspective. Because a lot of the people that are being deported are people like me, Maya people like me. And so I think we should all be aware of it. And so some of the questions that I get asked by students or people usually that I meet is like, so what is an Indigenous K'iche Maya person doing in Atlanta? How did you end up getting here? And so, and stories that you hear constantly on the news about immigrants is, it's that we come here to steal jobs, that we come here to commit crimes, all kinds of things. But what you never hear about is, how do we end up in the United States? And this is the question that I would like to address here today. And the question that you may be asking yourselves is that, well, what does this have to do with me? Well, you'll see that it has a lot to do with you all. There's a lot of your tax money, tax-paying money is supporting a lot of the things that are happening in places like Guatemala. I want to highlight two historical moments. One of them is the Guatemala Civil War, which occurred between 1960 and 1996. And then, second of all, I would like to highlight the year 2004, which is when Central American countries and the Dominican Republic signed a free trade agreement with the United States and Canada. But before I go on, let me just ask you, what do you know or what have you heard about Maya peoples or Maya civilization? Have you heard anything about Maya people? Yes?
We've been down both to
Chiapas and Guatemala.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Chiapas and Guatemala? Oh, the Maya calendar? Yes.
Pyramids.
The pyramids? Absolutely, yes.
They had a very complex and brilliant mathematical system.
Yes. Yes, mathematical systems. Absolutely. Anything else? Palenque, yes. It's a historical Maya site in Chiapas. Yeah, yes, wait.
I came across a piece that said they kind of predicted that Christopher Columbus was coming 22 years before 1492, and it was at a ceremony, it just said it's coming. Yeah, there are some stories like that.
The Maya discovered the zero.
Yes, absolutely.
And they were fine astronomers.
Yeah. So it seems that you know a lot. What am I doing here? But yes, I'm gonna. So just a little bit of context. This is what we call our ancestral homelands. What is now Guatemala, southern Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador. This is the heart of Mayan civilization, right? And as you all pointed out, we're basically known for some important ancestral sites. Chichen Itza in what is the Yucatan Peninsula, Maya cities like Tikal. Tikal is a really important center for us because during the so-called classic period, this region, this city was populated, and we call the classic period like the years 250 to 900 before Christ. Right? So in that particular period, Tikal, this specific city that I just showed, was populated by over 10 million people. Can you believe that? Yeah, so Tikal was like our New York. And yes, when we talk about Maya peoples too, we have to think about the plurality of diverse experiences. So I'm K'iche Maya, but in addition to K'iche Maya, there are other Maya nations. There are 31 distinct Maya nations. And there are 31 distinct Maya nations and 31 distinct Maya languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just to give you a little bit about the complexity of what we're talking about. Some of you mentioned the calendar. For us, like the beginning of our histories begin on 8 Kumku for a half, which translates in the Gregorian calendar as August 11 of 3114. That's when our history actually begins. So it's over 5,000 years old. We have been on this hemisphere for over 5,000 years. And yes, so these are some of the units that we use in our calendar. I'm just gonna. And the other thing that we are known for, another contribution that we have made to humanity is that Maya civilization, Maya peoples, or Maya ancestors invented a writing system. It is one of the 5 original writing systems that came into existence. Okay, and these are the other writing systems, ancestral writing systems. Out of all of these, the only one that survives today is the Chinese one. Okay. And so that writing, you can find it in our temples, ceramics, wood, and jade. And we also produce important books, thousands of books. And out of those 1,000 books, only 4 original Maya codices survive. And these are located not in Guatemala or Chiapas or Honduras, but rather in cities in Europe. And so you may wonder, what happened to these books? Right? Any guesses? Yes, some of you said yes, they were burned. When the Spanish began to invade our hemisphere, immediately when they found all of these books, they just thought that like the content of it was speaking about or adoring the devil, so they proceeded and burned a lot of these materials. Okay? So this is why we only have 4 original books that survive. Okay? And so these are a few pictures of Guatemala. This is Lake Atitlan. This is an important diplomacy center of 3 indigenous nations, the K'iche', the K'achikel', and the Sutuki people. Whenever we had conflicts among ourselves, this is where we went to sit down and discuss the possible things that we could do in order to solve those conflicts, to address those conflicts. So if you ever go to Guatemala, you have to visit Lake Atitlan because it's a beautiful, beautiful place, but it's a place full of energy and history. Okay. And yes, just showing you a little bit about the beauty of what Guatemala, what Iximulew is. And that beauty is a beauty that an anthropologist named George Lowell said. He wrote a book that is titled "Guatemala: A Beauty That Hurts." And he's so right about it, because the beauty of our country also has attracted, more colonization, international investment that has affected us deeply. Like a question in parentheses: where do you buy your fruits? Do you buy bananas? Do you eat bananas? Where do you buy your bananas? Where do you get them? Where do you purchase them? Groceries. Like which ones? Which grocery stores? When you buy bananas?
The Gab Farmers Market.
Yeah, so when you buy bananas, do you remember seeing like a blue sticker that says Chiquita? It tells you the country where it comes from? Okay, so that country, that company is the so-called United Fruit Company, which emerged in Boston, Massachusetts in 1899, and then they began to expand outside of the United States. The reason why the United Fruit Company is important in this story is because they established themselves in Guatemala at the end of the 19th century. Okay, the United States, that was the time also when the United States began to support dictatorships that were committing crimes against humanity and violating human rights for many peoples, many Guatemalans. And so, in 1950, Guatemala for the first time had its first democratic election. Can you imagine? 1950, for the first time people had the right to vote. And so in 1950 they elected a guy whose name was Jacobo Arbenz Guzman. So previously, like, there was a movement that overthrew a military dictator, Puerto Rico. And so when Jacobo Arbenz Guzman got to power, he said, well, we need to do things differently in this country. We need to establish a lab reform, we need to provide healthcare for everyone, we need to establish an educational system that is accessible to everyone, okay? Great ideas, right? Yeah, we think about this and say yes. Exactly. And so when he began to talk about land reform, he noticed that the United Fruit Company, this company that I mentioned, had acquired over 1 million hectares of land. And so a lot of that land was not being used, so he decided to purchase it back from the Guatemalan government in order to, establish a land reform that where people would work that land and better their conditions of existence. So one thing about this is the United Fruit Company. This is Jacobo Arbenz Guzman, the person that I just mentioned. These are some of the policies. So two of the owners, two of the investors in that company, the United Fruit Company, were these two guys, John Foster Dulles and Alan Dulles. One of them was the director of the CIA, and the other one was the Secretary of State under Eisenhower. So the two of them, when they saw that Jacobo Arbenz Guzman was promoting land reform, they invented a communist, they basically said that Jacobo Arbenz Guzman was a communist, and that he was spreading communism throughout the entire hemisphere. So they began to support a military coup against Arbenz. And this military coup took place in 1954. Remember, a democratically elected president, the first democratically elected president of Guatemala was politically overthrown. In the United States, the CIA intervened in that, supporting Guatemalan ex-military officers that were working, that were in exile. And so they got rid of Arbenz. So 6 years later, there was a movement, a revolutionary movement that declared war against the Guatemalan state because it was a dictatorship and against U.S. imperialism. So officially, in 1960, the war begins. Another important fact about Guatemala is that Guatemala and Bolivia are the only two countries in this hemisphere where the majority of the people are indigenous. So, out of the 17 million people in Guatemala, between 65 and 70% of the people are indigenous. Indigenous Maya, Xinca, or Garifuna. Okay? And so, in order for that revolutionary movement to become successful, they needed to integrate Maya peoples into the struggle. What do you think was the issue that a lot of this leadership in the revolutionary movement dealt with, trying to integrate Maya peoples? What was one of the obstacles they found?
Language?
Language, absolutely.
Culture.
As we just learned, I'm sorry?
Culture.
Yes, and culture.
Very different culture.
Absolutely. Culture, language. A lot of the people that were leading that movement did not speak a Maya language or did not understand the culture as effective as they should, right? So that took a while. It took them like a decade to begin to integrate indigenous peoples into that struggle. And finally, at the end of the 60s, early 1970s, a lot of Maya people began to integrate the revolution. And so when the government saw this, they changed their strategy. to defeat the opposition. Remember, like the Guatemalan government had a lot of support, economic support and logistics support from the United States government. The reason why it is important for us to know about this is because a lot of the training that Guatemalan Army officials did, it happened here in Georgia. There is a school called the School of the Americas, which is like an hour and a half away. Now it has a different name. It's called the School of the Western Hemisphere. That's where a lot of people came and did the training for counterinsurgency training. And also North Carolina, Fort Bragg was another military base where a lot of that training took place. But anyways, so the strategy then became to eliminate the opposition. They talked about, they used a metaphor called, basically said, quitarle el agua al pez, to take the water away from the fish. It was a metaphor in which the fish was the guerrilla movement, and then the water was represented by the people. So the Guatemalan government basically said, if we eliminate the supporters of this revolutionary movement, then the fish is gonna have no more water, so it's gonna die, right? So this is how, like, beginning in 1978, the Guatemalan government adopted terrorist campaigns, basically going into Maya communities and then eliminating people. Okay? So there was a genocide that took place specifically between 1978 and 1984. So imagine that particular context, right? What are people going to do in that context? What would you do if you were like suddenly being attacked? You have to escape. So a lot of people began to move to cities, like looking to cities to survive, but most of them ended up coming to the United States. I'm one of those people that ended up coming to the United States in 1990. So as I said, the Civil War concluded in 1960, and these are some of the results. Right? Within this particular period of 1960 1996, 1.5 million people were displaced, and we ended up here. Over 40,000 people were disappeared, and over 200,000 people were killed. So this was a genocide. But these are some of the root causes of migration to, like, the way that the long answer to the question that I'm asked in terms of how I ended up in the United States. Just for you to know that we don't live because we want to, but because we have to. Right? And so finally, after 36 years of struggle, the war finally came to an end in 1960. But as we can see, migration to the United States continues. Right? So if there is no war, if there is no genocide, why are people living in places like Guatemala or Mexico or El Salvador or Honduras? Any guesses?
No jobs, they're in the city and there isn't enough resources.
Yeah, lack of opportunities, limited education. There is also climate change is now affecting us. We're experiencing a lot of droughts. A lot of our rivers are being contaminated. In 2004, Guatemala signed the Central American Free Trade Agreements, along with Dominican Republic and the other Central American countries. An agreement, a free economic trade agreement that was signed with the United States and Canada. So what that basically means is that a lot of companies from the US and Canada basically had the green light to go and operate in Central America, in the Dominican Republic. So this may sound good, right? Because some of the arguments like to favor this agreement was, well, people are coming to the United States to look for jobs. So what they need is opportunities in Guatemala, right? It sounds good. But at the same time, a lot of these companies don't pay the wages that are necessary to live a comfortable life. I mean, the main reason why many corporations and many US companies go to Guatemala or Mexico is because instead of paying people like $17 an hour or $17.50 an hour, they can pay what is the minimum wage for some countries. So like the minimum wage in Guatemala is 2,500 quetzales, or that's the local currency in Guatemala, 2,500 quetzales a month, which in US dollars it becomes like $350 to $400 a month, right? So this is the main reason why these companies go there, because they can make so much more money. Right? And so imagine people with families, they don't have the necessary means to support families, so they end up migrating. And this is why a lot of people migrate in search for new opportunities. But the other problem that we see is that a lot of these companies that are settling in Guatemala are bringing or creating all of these environmental damages, like hydroelectric dams, for example, extractivist companies that are extracting gold in Guatemala. They are contaminating rivers, polluting the earth, provoking droughts. Like in my family, for example, my family, they used to say, well, we used to expect the rain in July for our crops, corn, beans, etc. And now the weather is so unstable that one day we may get some rain, and then we go months without rain, and then so we don't know how to predict the weather anymore. Right? And so all of these experiences with climate change are also leading people to leave the country. Okay? So these are the things that we have to understand in terms of the root causes of migration. That we don't leave because we want to, but rather that we have to. And I forgot to mention this. After the peace accords were signed in Guatemala, Bill Clinton went to Guatemala in 1999 and apologized to the Guatemalan people for U.S. involvement in the war, in the armed conflict, in the genocide. And so these are some of the routes that people from Central America or Mexico take in order to enter the United States. And this is Donald Trump during his first administration, complaining about how countries like Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, they have received a lot of funding, but have failed to stop immigrants from coming into this country. And he's right. This is from 2018. This is what the U.S. government gave Guatemalan or these three Central American countries in aid, right? So Guatemala received $300 million. Right? And this is a lot of our tax money. And what you got to wonder then is, so if all of this money is being put into these Central American countries, why? What's going on? Where is the money going? Where do you think it's going?
U.S. corporations.
I'm sorry?
U.S. corporations.
U.S. corporations, to some extent, a little bit of that, yes. Where else? Any other ideas?
Corruption?
Corruption, yes, there is a lot of corruption, definitely.
Military?
I'm sorry?
Military?
Yes, absolutely. The military, police forces, because they are being the ones with the task of defending these transnational companies. Because, the way that whenever we see a company in the United States that is polluting rivers, we immediately go and protest against it, right? So a lot of these companies need protection. You can see this with Elon Musk. There is a lot of, if you go to a Tesla dealership now, there are a lot of police forces protecting business. This is the same thing in Guatemala, but it's so all of this money is going to police forces, the training, as a way to protect U.S. and Ghanaian companies. Okay, so this is how the money is being spent. And yes, so there's a lot of corruption because there's a lot of money going all over. Any questions about what I'm sharing with you so far?
I see USA there.
Oh yes.
Being eliminated.
Exactly.
But probably they're picking up from military.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's interesting because yes, USA was one of the companies that was actually giving this money away And I'm not saying that some of this money is going to some organizations that are looking for human rights, but it is ironic that for the most part, when we do the tracing of this, all of this support, we can identify that it goes specifically to the police forces, the Guatemalan army, etc.
So has the aid now pretty much stopped or diminished?
It has been diminished. So we just had Marco Rubio go to Guatemala a few weeks ago to meet with Central American presidents. One of them was in El Salvador, and the conversation, as you probably know by now, is in Guatemala. Both basically said to Donald Trump that if they were sending immigrants back, both they can be held in Guatemala and El Salvador. So a lot of Venezuelans are ending up in El Salvador or Guatemala, and but yes, so they are continuing to receive funding from the U.S. It's not as explicit now. We don't know yet how much money they are receiving, but they are still getting funding. Yes.
I'd like to know what it was like for you personally to be displaced.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how you deal with the rage after and so on.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me seeing what's going on, especially because people who are being arrested are people that are even U.S. citizens now, or people with a green card, or people that are in the process of applying for getting a green card. So it's very worrisome for me. In terms of my own experience, growing up in Guatemala, I grew up in the rural areas, and I remember seeing military presence there. So I grew up with my grandmother because my mom had to leave the country because of our vulnerability. So she left in 1976 to come to the United States, and so I stayed in Guatemala. But when she came to the States, it was very helpful because she was sending money back, and that allowed me to get an education and for me to move from my community to the city. And this happened when I was 12. And the reason why my grandmother moved us to the city was because there were a lot of raids by the Guatemalan army. If you were 12, they grabbed you by force and made you a soldier, basically. And so, but if you were educated, then the army wouldn't want anything to do with you, because if you knew how to read and write, they were afraid that you would bring discussions about how to resist, and so they didn't want people that were literate. So there was a lot of insistence in my family for me to get educated, and so I became an elementary school teacher in Guatemala at the time. And so that kind of shielded me from what was going on. But eventually, because the genocide got really, really bad, and a lot of people, Maya people especially, became persecuted, I ended up leaving as well. I didn't have a full picture of what was going on in Guatemala at the time, but it was until I came to the United States when I began to find out what was going on, because unlike here, for example, you can go to a library, the public library, and borrow up to 10 books for the weekend, right? In Guatemala, that wasn't the case. When I was a student, for example, if I had to write a paper, I had to go to the library with a specific name of the book. I was allowed to borrow that book for just 2 hours and then return it. And if you wanted to purchase books, it was actually dangerous because there was a lot of censorship. And if you were seen with a book on the streets, you could be a target. You could be considered like an intellectual, and then you could be persecuted as well. So being a student or a teacher in Guatemala during this time was kind of dangerous. And we're kind of experiencing that right now, the dismantling of the Department of Education, all of the cutting funding from universities to research. So, we have to ask, what is the reason? Why are they removing all of this funding on scientific research? Eliminating the Department of education? What effect that's going to have on all of these kids, all of these new generations that are trying to obtain education today? Yeah. So I was going to show you a video about the K'iche Maya people in this region called El Estor. In 2023, the police forces came and tried to arrest some peaceful protests that were demanding that an extractivist company, an oil company, left, for them to leave Guatemala because they were causing all of these environmental damages. And so, but I can send it to you, and then if you want to share it with everyone, so I won't have time to do that. And this is, so the Trump administration has also established or reactivated the zero tolerance policy, separating families at the US-Mexico border. And during the first Trump administration in 2016, there were a lot of Maya children that died under the US Border Protection Office. And so these are some of the kids that died. And yeah, just to reiterate that there are a lot of migrants that are still trying to leave the country, and the main reason is because they don't have any other choices, but rather is to leave, to look for a better life. And the other thing that I wanted to say in terms of our experiences as Maya peoples is that sometimes we get mislabeled as being Latinx or Hispanic, and I usually tell people, no, we're not Hispanic or we're not Latino, but rather we're Indigenous Maya, and we need to learn a little bit more about specific Indigenous experiences. And the other thing I was going to say something else. Oh yeah. But yeah, like, so sometimes when people ask me, are you from Guatemala? And sometimes they say, yes, but at the same time, I'm not. Because I identify as a Maya person because my history predates the history of Guatemala as well as the history of European nations. As I said in the beginning, the history of my peoples is over 5,000 years old. And I think it's important for us to underscore that concept. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions? Sorry.
Quick pregunta. I spent many times going to Chichen Itza, Mexico, because I was in awe with how it was built and the history. And climbing up it was wonderful, but getting down I had to figure out how to do it. I wanted to ask you, the artwork that I was so impressed with, I didn't realize until the second time I was there, that the etchings on all the stones throughout the entire area were faces of people that were sacrificed.
Yes.
And I was wondering if that was cultural to all of the countries where the Mayans resided, and I also wanted to know when did that stop?
It hasn't stopped. We continue doing that. I usually tell my students, don't make me mad because I'm going to sacrifice. But yes, the sacrifice was part of our spiritual beliefs. And I mean, but a lot of people, some of the colonial records usually talk about us sacrificing thousands of people, but that doesn't make sense. If we sacrifice, thousands of people, then who's going to do certain works? I mean, we're going to end up just, with a small society. I mean, there were sacrifices, but they were done like every once in a while. Corresponding to the Maya calendar, there are 5 specific sacred dates when sacrifices took place. And yeah, so there is a lot of significance and meaning behind each of them. I mean, if you want to invite me back to tell you more about it, but yes, there were sacrifices, and usually they involve beheading. My son actually, Chichen Itza, I don't know if you visited the ball court in Chichen Itza, but there is a mural of a sacrifice, right?
But it's also throughout the country, because we met some professors that were Mayan in the university, and they took us to areas where there was like a beautiful swimming hole or a pond, and then there was a stone with an etching, you know, a figurine on it. And he said to me, wherever you see these, it's not somebody putting it out on their lawn. That's where they had the stones for a ceremony for a sacrifice. So I was under the impression it was only at Iximulew the first time I was there. But a few other times I went afterwards and went through the entire country with some friends. We found it sporadically throughout the country.
Absolutely, yeah, my people, the K'iche Maya, we did it as well. We were at war against the K'iche Maya people, and we sacrificed after we won battles against them. We sacrificed some of their people. But yes, in many Maya nations, they were part of our culture.
And your food is delicious.
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you, we had the family we were with cook for us. The food is delicious.
There are a good few Maya-owned restaurants here in Atlanta, in Buford Highway. If you go to, there is a place called Xelapan, which is owned by a Maya mom family from Quetzaltenango. Their food is really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you for this presentation. That's your personal timeline. And 2-3 questions, and I apologize if you've already covered this. Could you talk a little bit about your grandmother, I think, came to the United States in the mid-70s. 2 or 3 questions real quick. What city did she come to? And then secondly, I think I heard you say that you came when you were about 12. Is that correct?
No, when I was 12, I moved from my community in Quetzaltenango to Guatemala City. And then I came to the States when I was 19, in 1990.
So could you talk a little bit about what led you to Atlanta and Emory, and how long you've been an English teacher, English professor?
Oh, thank you for those questions. My mom was actually the one that left the country in 1976, and she first settled in California, in Los Angeles, and then she moved to Chicago. And when I came to the States, that's where I ended up, in Chicago, Illinois. And that's where I went to school to learn English, and then I decided to pursue higher education. I got my GED and then went to college. Initially, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, but I ended up taking English literature classes, and I kind of liked it. And so I ended up getting a PhD degree in a BA in English literature, and then a PhD in English and Latin American literatures. And I did my PhD at the University of Pittsburgh. Then I got a job at University of Pennsylvania. And then I ended up at UNC in North Carolina. And from UNC, I came to Emory in 2023. But yeah, in a nutshell.
You talk about climate change, Guatemala to Chicago. That's quite a climate change.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It took me a while to adapt. But initially, I was so excited about seeing the snow. But then after 2 weeks, I was like, I need to go back. I'm sorry. You had a question?
Well, you answered one of my questions because I was curious. When you came to the United States, you did not know English.
Right.
So you went to the ESL, or not ESL.
Yeah.
Was it basically ESL?
ESL, yeah. So it was a school near my house, and I used to work at a factory, and then in the afternoons I was able to, in the night I was able to classes.
And the other thing is your shirt. I have read that one of the things about the K'iche people is that art and craft and embroidery was one of the things that they're famous for. And
Yes.
I wondered if that was a shirt from there.
Yeah, actually this is from Ecuador. They usually in February they celebrate a festival called the Inti Raymi, the celebration of the sun. And so there is this figure in the triangle that's, it's this person that comes out and dances in the festival, invoking or like saying thanks to the sun for its light and for all of the benefits that it brings to humanity. It's a big festival. And so I saw this show and I thought, that's pretty nice. But my relatives is from Guatemala, and my mom also weaves, and some of my clothes is made by her. But yes, and usually when we talk about our textiles, we say these are the books that the colonization could not destroy. And it's just to give you a little, I think there was a picture that I had with. And so, yeah, each of the nations has their own specific styles when it comes to the clothing. Like, with the K'iche Maya, we choose specific colors that correspond to the environments in Quetzaltenango or Maya territories. Or if you go to a region called Cobán, which is colder, their textiles are heavier, So anyways, or in Yucatan, which is so hot, the styles are very different. But they come from